Thanks very much, Cal. Great to be back again for another week. We're here to give an update from the Threeways Community Association and the area that we cover. So firstly, this week we want to start off just on a more sad note. We want to acknowledge and pay our respects to the McGrath family on the passing of Mary. Mary McGrath, that's just a wee photo over there at our senior citizens Christmas party at Christmas time. Mary was one of the founding members of Threeways Community Association and an absolute lady that she was. She's been involved with Threeways possibly for the guts of about 20 years now. So it's a very, very sad time for us all in Threeways, and I'm sure it's even sadder for her family. So it's just to acknowledge and just to say to the family that our thoughts and prayers are with you all at this very sad time. Over the years, Mary has been an absolute lady, and many memories made with her and with our other members in the luncheon club, and she'll be a very sad part missing from that piece. Up until Mary's death, Mary has been an active member of our association and the luncheon club, and just we're deeply shocked and saddened by her passing. So again, condolences to the family on that. Moving on from that, we want to just give just a polite notice. Our members of the community association have been out in force last night and today, going around the area. It's a massive area, so over 800 homes would have received a community newsletter, and that's just an update of what we've been doing and what we plan to do over the next coming month or 2 months. So it's just to let everybody know that we are here and what we're doing. So really about this evening as well, we just wanted to give people an insight to Threeways Community Association. And for those who don't know, it's not to get any praise, nor is it to receive any recognition, because we don't do that. We have community in our bones, and we are community people, and we always have been, and we always will be. So we're a community association that's built up of 12 members. We're all volunteers. Firstly, we all have our own work. We all have our own family commitments, and we all have our own care and responsibilities. But we still manage to give at least 500 hours plus a month community work to the community centre and to the wider area. We as a community association not only manage the community facility and the rope walk and all the daily tasks that come along with that, and that's the upkeep, the maintenance, bookings, etc., etc. So on the back of that, we not only provide 2 personal social development programs for young people aged 12 plus, and that's based on informal education, but we also provide a summer club every year for our youth club. We also provide a youth club, and we also provide a senior citizens luncheon club, and we also provide programs and events throughout the year in and around community safety, Halloween fun days, Santa Sundays, in and around St. Patrick's Day, all the big milestones of the year. Threeways is there, and we're delivering for this community, and it's for all ages and all abilities. With everything we do, time's precious. Planning takes an awful lot of time, and we don't just put these programs and events on in the background. We're there. We're ensuring we're here to all policies and procedures, and that everybody's health and safety is paramount. Threeways always has had, and we always will have, an open door policy, and that's always been a flagship for us, and we will continue to do that. We work tirelessly for this community. As I said, we're not doing it for recognition nor that, but it's just to give you an insight as it is what we do. Sadly, due to COVID-19, a number of programs and events that we were hopefully going to be running throughout the whole summer period and further afield came to a halt, but not just for a halt as in delivering, but the association has been there in the background, and we've been providing support for those who need us, often going unnoticed and unrecognised. But again, we don't do it for the recognition. We've been out and we've been delivering food parcels. We've also done a few things in regards to donations to the local homes and providing care packages to those who need it. So we expect to have the youth club return in September time, along with our senior citizens club, and we would encourage any young person who's 7 up, that's the age that we go from, to join the youth club, and that'll be taking place on Tuesday evenings from 6:30 to 8 o'clock every week. And the community, or the youth club, is a place for young people to gather and to build new friendships and new skills and to have a bit of fun outside of school. Again, it's an open door policy. We use 7+ purely because we're not funded to run any of them programs in the youth club, and we aren't funded by the education board, and it's still the delivery is done purely by volunteers. So to make it easier for the association, to make it easier and more fair, not only on the volunteers but on the young people who are attending, 7 is deemed the right age for us. Because it just works. If we took anything old or any young person younger than 7, it's a whole different game. We're always keen to hear from residents, so please do get in touch if there's anything at all in regards to what you believe we could deliver in this area. Please do let us know. We're always here. We're always able to listen. We can take criticism, and we can also give it when we have to, and we will deliver as best to our ability, and we'll diligently work in the background on that. Moving on from that, then, we just want to just really put it out there again about Monk's Hill Graveyard. We share the frustration with local residents and families of loved ones who were up in Monk's Hill Graveyard the other night when there was desecration that happened in the graves. Desecration of any size is wrong, and we would just say to anybody at any stage when you are in that graveyard, please respect it. It's a place where people go for comfort. It's people go for reflection, and it's a place where people go to cherish their loved ones and to remember them times. So please respect that, and deter from any anti-community behaviour that is. Moving on then, on a lighter note and a much happier note, we have a few birthdays this week. So first up, we have Carmel Quinn. Carmel was on a few weeks ago and done an excellent interview there, and she's one of our Luncheon Club members. So a very happy birthday, Carmel, from us all at Threeways Community Association. We then have our own committee member, Johnny McAteer. It was Johnny's birthday yesterday, so happy birthday, John Tawn, and thank you for everything that you do for your local community and community association. Then we'll have residents Gerald Greer. Then we'll have Roisin and Sarah Bentley, the twins from Greenfield. And we have Gabriel Crudden and Rami Burns there from up around the Mons area. So a very happy birthday to you all. And last, just a happy birthday to Maureen Ruddy. Maureen is on Martins Lane Community Association, and we would work quite actively with Maureen and the other community association. So just on behalf of everybody in Threeways, a very happy birthday to you too, Maureen. Our community member acknowledgement of the week is Betty Woods, and this came through the chairperson of Threeways Community Association. We don't actually have a photo of Betty, but we have a photo there of the grotto, and it's just to acknowledge the work that Betty does. Betty keeps the grotto looking in ship shape, and it's quite a unique part of our area and something this area is quite proud of. So Betty's over there daily just looking after the area, and we want to thank her for that. Again, she goes and does it for no recognition, obviously, but it's nice to be recognised sometimes when you're a community member like Betty. So well done, Betty, and thank you for your support, and thank you for what you do for the area. Moving on then, just a few wee updates that we would have in regards to activities that are happening. We have MetaFit classes, and they're actually going to be commencing tomorrow at 12:30 down in the rope walk. So we're delighted to be bringing this, and that's in conjunction with the Clanray Group. They are providing the support for that, and that's funded by Sport NI and Uri Mourne District Council. So it's taking place at 12:30. It's 1 to 1 o'clock MetaFit. It's a 30-minute intense exercise program. It is limited to numbers just so we can ensure we're adhering to all guidance that is put in place, but we do still have places available. So if you email us or contact us, there in the number, or even contact us through the Facebook page, and do come along and join in. It's a program that's there for any resident and further afield. Then moving on from that, we as a community association have decided to run a soccer camp for young people, and that's going to start on Tuesday the 4th of August from 7 to 8:30 again in the rope walk, and that's going to be free classes. It has been supported by Uri Mourne and Down District Council, and they have provided the funding for that, and we're delighted that we're able to deliver this through one of our summer schemes. So it is again for 7 to 11-year-olds, and it's going to be facilitated by Nell McCann coaching. So we're really looking forward to that. Again, it's limited numbers. It is open to all. You can register through the email address there, which is info@threewaysca.co.uk, or the mobile number, which is 077 6866 9391. The places are filling up quite fast. It went out last night, and my phone and email has been off the scales today, which is great and which we're delighted to see. Moving on then from that, we are working at the minute to deliver an outdoor cinema, and that's going to be taking place again in the Rope Walk, and that'll be happening sometime in August. So we do ask just to keep an eye on our Facebook page and our Twitter page or Instagram page, whatever it is you use. We're on them all, and just keep up to date with that. And again, it will be open to anybody within the area, and it will be limited just due to social guidelines. Moving on then from that, you might have heard that community centres are allowed to reopen as of today. At the minute, that's not going to be the case for Threeways Community Association. We have a number of works being carried out in the centre to get it all up to speed and up to the standard that we want it to be for going back. So there's painting happening at the minute and the floors are getting done. And then we will be putting procedures and policies in place that's going to protect everybody. The We High Street Lockdown Project have asked us just to mention that they are continuing their summer classes, and they're happening on Tuesday nights, and they're over there in Cathedral View just off High Street, and it's $2.50 a class. And anybody from the area who wants to go along, please do join in and do that. That's in regards to the updates for the week. That's it at the moment. We done an interview that's going to be coming up. Oh, sorry, good man, Cahill. I just noticed there a massive congratulations. Past no marks that I'm actually in the photo, but it's because I work for PIP. So on behalf of everybody in the association, a massive congratulations to Poddy Heaney, a resident of the Manse. Poddy selflessly decided that he wanted to do something for a local charity and done a sponsored head shave for PIP's Hope and Support, which is the local suicide prevention charity, and raised £1,135 in a very short space. So a massive congratulations, Poddy, and well done for your efforts. I know firsthand that the money will go to an exceptional cause. So thank you, and well done for that. So as I said a few seconds ago, that's the update then finished for this week. But we had Patsy Quinn down with us yesterday, and Patsy gave an oversight of his life and growing up and what he has been doing in his later years. And your man was that good last week, Joe, that he invited himself back. He would be a very good friend of Patsy, so he comes in probably in around halfway through it. So just bear in mind that this was all done completely natural, recorded completely natural. So at times the boys will go off the screen and they'll just have a natter away, but it's very good listening and very good entertainment. So we hope you enjoy it, and we look forward to coming back next week and giving you all a further update on the work of the association and what has been happening and is due to happen in the local community. So okay, thank you.
I was born, I'm 84 years old. I was born in a place called George's Lane. I don't remember living there because for the time I had a vision of this word, we had Mitchell Street in the churchy end of the town. I was born in 1936, the year of the Berlin Olympics. But Adolf Hitler was at the height of his powers and he was planning to rule the world. He reckoned without my father, who joined the Royal Navy and went out and defeated them. I went to the Abbey Primary School at about went to the Holy Nuns in High Street first at about 5-year-old. I don't remember much about them, but they slapped us. I remember they slapped us. And then we went to the Christian Brothers after that, after about 6 or 7-year-old. They just slapped us harder. I left the Abbey at 14 years of age, and I was well fit to read Beano and not much else. I did not like primary school. I didn't like teachers, and I thought they sent me there because I did something wrong. It was a horrible bloody place. But a wonderful thing happened to me about 2 years before I was school. I joined the St. John Bosco Youth Club, which was then meeting in the barracks up in Hull Square. And there was a wonderful man called Jerry Brown, and I met him, and I was introduced to all sorts of things like PE, or it was PT in those days, gymnastics, and from that I progressed and I did a bit of cross-country running with Newry Shamrocks. Changed in the Bosco, went over to the Shamrocks, went out on the road for a run at night, and then come back to the Bosco. The big attraction, one of the big attractions that made me join the Bosco was there were showers, hot showers. There were no showers in houses in Newry in the late 1940s. There's no, our houses didn't get a jar box. Put your leg up into the jar box in the cold water or a top outside. So the hot showers were a great attraction. But the Bosco was the start of my life. I was introduced to all kinds of things that I never would have dreamt of. I went through the National Association of Boys Clubs. I went on to Wales at club leaders' course when I was 16, 17. Great time. And I then started taking the junior and senior boys for PE when Jerry Brown left us. And but Jerry Brown was the man. People have great primary school experiences and great teachers with experience, but the man who impressed me most in my life was Jerry Brown. And he was a man of few words, but you did tend to remember every word he said. I then went on, I was a message boy after school. Other critics said I wasn't. The way I left school with my education, he said I wouldn't even get a job sweeping the streets. So I went off there, and about 10 years later, there were no qualified PE teachers in Northern Ireland. They didn't train PE teachers. You had to go to England if you wanted to be a PE specialist. And then suddenly, about 1958, 758, they made physical education a compulsory subject. So all schools had to have a PE teacher. At this stage, I was working in Horrocks's factory, and they weren't Pine Road. Where another wonderful thing, I met my dear wife. That was the second greatest thing, well, the greatest thing ever happened. I married her, and I'm still married to her almost 60 years later. I went from there to Horrocks's. I went on PE courses at Bosco sent us to Banbridge, and one of the lecturers in the college, Stromulus College, took us and taught us how to teach PE in some sort of way. And then at about 1967, there were a lot of new PE teachers coming on stream, and I was an unqualified teacher, taught in Violet Hill, Newry Tech, Desperate Tech, and I knew that my job was coming to an end. So I got a job running a youth club for Queen's University. In 98 University Street in Belfast. I moved down there to work in 1967, and that was probably the best job I ever had. I was my own boss. And while I was there, I had day free. And my chairman then, a great man called Godfrey Dalton, a Yorkshire man, advised me to go back to school and do some O-levels and A-levels, which I thought was silly. But I went back. I left there in 72. I was 4 years there. I was my own boss and a great job. Worked with a wonderful assistant leader called Winifred Potter, or as the boys called her, Winnie Potter, a great, great woman, and I was very happy 4 years there. And then I went in 72 to 75 to Stromulus Teacher Training College. And it was wonderful. I did a full year at A-levels first. I got a grant for all this, and I got a grant when I was training as a teacher, which was more than I was ever able to earn at the time. Out of there, I went to, my children were at St. Patrick's High School in Lisburn. But meantime, I had started doing things like walking in the mornings and rock climbing and all sorts of activities, sailing, mountaineering, played league squash in Lisburn. And I got a great time. And I must say, I lived in Lisburn for about 28, 29 years, and we never had any sectarian trouble. And we were in a totally mixed estate. Mostly Protestant, as you can imagine, from Lisburn, but I never had any bother. So I went from there to teach in St. Patrick's High School, where 2 children were there. Bad mistake, a bad move. The principal was a man from Belfast. He was a cowboy. I didn't like the way he ran the place, and he was in for belting, beating hell out of children the way the Christian Brothers was, which was anything I wanted to do. So I moved then to a place called Dromore in County Darren. And I got a job there, and I was there for the next 19 years. That's a state school, a euphemism for a Protestant school. But however, I knew the principal through mountaineering, and when I went for teaching posts, I only went for 2 teaching posts, and I knew before the interview that I was getting the job because they knew that I would take children to the mountains. And when I was at the Queen's University Youth Club, I took kids to the moors, and Queen's had a mountaineering club, and our own cottage in the moors, which I was able to use for years and years after that. And I had a great life. And one of the things that I regret when I qualified as a teacher in 1975, I wanted to come and show my teachers. Brother Club, when I arrived in Uri, Club had died. I would have liked to shoved it up his backside because he said it wouldn't be sweep the streets. So that's just a quick resume of my life. And then when I come back to Uri, I met a group of people who were doing short story writing. And I joined the group. And I did write short stories. But a wonderful man called Rowan Hahn, got to know Rowan on a sailing boat down in Carr Marina about 1996, and for about 10 years. And Rowan had a boat there, and I got to know Rowan. And when I would tell Rowan a story or two, he told me I should write them down. So he encouraged me to write stories about my early life. And I did. I started to write stories. And I should have brought a wee copy of the book with me, but I produced a book of about 40 stories. And I got a lot of encouragement from a man called Anthony Russell, who's our local historian, a wonderful guy. And through him, I joined the Old Uri Society. And I was secretary for a few years. But Anthony was great help with the writing and great encouragement me. But Rowan was the man that actually started me, and I have him to thank for that. And then, as I say, I had also joined the Uri Writers Group. And had all sorts of wonderful people there who were writing short stories. And so I started to write short stories. And then I was over Monaghan Street. He says, I thought it was Hill Street, but Joe says it was Monaghan Street. I met Joe Morgan, who I had known loosely for years and years. Morgans are, whole Morgan plan's a bit like that. You know, if you don't know the Morgans, you don't live in Uri. So I said, Joe, you should come and join our wee group. In those days, we were meeting down in the Shamrocks Club in the marshes. So Joe came down, and for a year, he just helped making tea. He never opened his mouth. And then after a year, he was 82, I think, in those days. And after a year, he started writing short stories. And then he became our best short. Writing these stories, some of them were. He has one great gift in writing. Write humor. I don't know if you've ever tried humor, writing humor. You really try to write a joke down. It doesn't, but Joe can write humor. And he then became a star. And his star has risen and risen and risen to the great heights that he's arrived at today. I parted from the storytelling group. You know, in Uri, when you get the organization going, there's always a split, Joe went on, and then he joined the UCA, and he started painting, and he has a great eye for colour, and a great painter. I mean, it's lilies of the field, and owls and hawks and birds. It's fantastic. He was a painter all his life, but never thought of actually doing a painting. And then he joined the drama group, and he's carried away. He absolutely loves the boards. He's not happy unless he's on stage acting. There's where I am. What? So there he is to this day, and he's in the room now, and he's cracking to get on here to talk to me. All right, you want to ask me any questions?
He's itching to get on. He's itching to get on beside you. He was that good last time that he wanted to come back this week. So pull him in there beside you, sure.
Right, Joseph's going to join us now. And the question I would like to ask is, how could we stop? On young Joseph.
Well, Paddy,
You're back.
Crack's great. I did enough slobbering here last week, Poddy.
You're the one. You invited yourself back, Joe.
But I didn't tell you everything. There's 3 wee things I forgot to tell you.
You were going.
Number 1 is the Threeways Community Centre. Number 2 is Tony Carr, a very good friend of mine. And the third one is, I'm thinking I'm away through. I thought I would better to tell you that Joseph Francis was one of the founders of the Newry Threeways.
That's correct.
And I was a big member then, a PRO and secretary and all sorts of things. And Pricky Tommy Cabot, he was the big chief. And Jimmy Daly, Jimmy Daly and we actually became trustees. We were very high up. And we worked very hard to get the Threeways Community Centre going. And I'm very proud of the centre now. And then me and a fella called Francie McAteer, we started up an indoor bowling club here. And it was very successful. And the Threeways bowling floor in Newry and Mourne, a very accurate floor for bowling. But it's a big pity because the members didn't come to the practices, so we just faded away. And that really broke my heart because I loved the indoor bowls. But on then now to my family. I have a boy, my oldest boy, he's nearly as old as I am. He's 68. He'll be 70 now in the year after next. And his name is Martin, and he worked for years in the brew. There's my brother. He worked in the brew. And then I have another son called Pat, and he was a social worker, and he's retired now, and he lives in Newcastle upon Tyne, and he's enjoying his retirement, singing in the choir just like his daddy. And I've had another son, and you all know him as Mufti. Well, Mufti's a joiner and some bedroom furniture, things like that. And everybody knows Mufti. And he would be in his middle 50s. That would be in middle 60s. And my baby daughter, Anne-Marie, she would be in her middle 40s. So on then from the family to Tony Carr. Now, we befriended Tony Carr now this past 15 years. And Tony was a big
Joe,
man.
just move in a wee bit closer. We can't see you.
Right.
Yeah.
Tony was 21 years in the Irish Army, and Tony befriended me, and Tony takes me to all the veteran competitions, and he takes me to Athlone and Dundalk and Clonmel, Limerick, West Cork, East Cork, and I go to all these big veteran celebrations. And I'm very proud of Tony. He's a born and reared Newry man, and Tony served in the Congo, in the Yemen, in Aden, in Morocco, Tunisia, and the Golden Coast. And he became a colour surgeon, and then I think he ended up Surgeon Major. And Joseph Francis, he got Joseph Francis as a member. I am now a member, a recruit in the 2nd Battalion, the Cattle Brewer Battalion
of the Irish Army Association. And just this morning, I got my medal, gold medal, and I'm very proud of it. And I'm going to wear it now in my lapel. And I'm going to tell everybody that I'm an honorary Irish soldier. I think I've done enough slabbering now, and we'll really get this envelope open, and I'll show you this wonderful medal I got this morning. You can't tear this plastic. But anyway, I'm all excited because my name's on it.
Hold it up beside your face, Joe.
Joseph Morgan.
On up a
You
wee
see
bit
it?
there. Up again. Up again.
It's hard to see through the plastic, isn't it? Wait a minute, can you open that plastic?
You're going to talk all bloody on again, no? Or is that it?
Oh, were you getting an interview today? Were you? No, that's all. That'll do me. I'll let her Patsy finish off. God love you.
Joe, sit where you are.
I think
Patsy,
I
pull in
slabbered
beside
him.
him.
Hey, Patsy.
Joe, you just sit where you are and the two you sit together. You two cowboys,
Yeah,
where is it every Thursday you just disappear? The Shelburne, is it?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Well, 2 or 3 days a week we'll go to the Shelburne.
All about people watching.
I know all the girls, and all the girls know us.
Oh, I'm
And
sure.
they make us very welcome.
Sure they do.
Aye. And you know this, Patsy gave me a wonderful day yesterday, a surprise day. He took me down to the Worm Point Golf Club,
Very good.
and we had great crack with all the senior citizen golfers. And the crack, there was a good man there, a Worm Point man called Homer Murphy, and he was brilliant. And another
You're man.
another fly out here called Willie McGivern.
Well, here, you two aren't men for sitting about, because did you not say earlier you are going out tonight again?
Oh, we're going out for dinner at 6:30 in the Canal Court. And Colin will go.
Have the life of it.
Can I
You work away.
introduce we know the history here? With this building, what?
You work away.
With this building sitting, when I was a young fella in St. Clair's Avenue, this was all the remains of old houses and rubble and all sorts of rubbish. But there was a house here, a family called Hamills, with this building sitting. And the eldest son, John Hamill, was a great lad. We played football down in the old park down below. It's now a nice five-a-side football pitch. Wasn't in those days. But John Hamill then, in the 50s, late 50s, early 60s, he went to the Congo with the Irish Army, and he actually became a sergeant in the Southern Army. So I just thought I'd put that in. But Hamill's house and all those, and there was another man in the front row of houses up here on the actual street, an old fellow, Charlie McDonald. Charlie was a piper, and he would be out the back tuning up the pipes and playing where we were maybe playing pitch and toss or running about. Of course, there was no bridge across Lindsay Hill in those days. Across there now, and trees in what was Tremere's orchard. You could have got apples and pears and gooseberries and plums and everything, and it's all gone. It's all gone. Nice new houses built there, and a road down past Joseph Alphonse's house. Joe's the last house on the right, the last man standing at the bottom of it. So, history was a different place then. The row of houses that are there now above us here, all the way up to what we used to be Stoker Hooks' shop, they were all old houses. And now they were all knocked down. And there was a lovely pub there. It was called the Lonely Hearts, because all the older ladies and gentlemen from this part of the world would gather up there. And there was a very nice man He was called Pat O'Hare.
Pat O'Hare, yes.
Apparently, most nights he would send out for fish and chips for them all. It was great crack. There was some great characters about this place.
And you know, I am just a blow-in. I'm only living here
Yeah.
56 years. Well, I'm proud to be a member of the part of Old Uri.
Exactly.
And we still have our wee Lindsay Hill.
Exactly.
Yes.
Lindsay Hill's still there. Here, listen,
Yeah.
these two men will remember, or do you remember, the horses and carts in Uri?
Oh, yes. There were in a photograph from some photographs of photograph of Old Church Street from the top of Church Street looking down towards the grotto.
Yeah.
And this very interesting photograph, and everybody noticed straight away, there is not one car parked in Church Street.
That's it.
Because when I was in primary school, we walked to school and you could have played football on the road all the way to school because there was no traffic. There was an old fella, Poddy, Dillon, had a hand cart. And he used to pull it up past this place. He collect a few arm jars and rags and bottles and gold. There was no, and there was a place down, the butter market was at the bottom of High Street, where there was that, and there was a row of old houses there that went right down in the north, and there was an entry down there, and it took you down to the back of the cathedral. And I remember going down there to midnight mass, 11:30 and Christmas Eve, and you could hear the horses. There were horses and cattle in there, and you could hear the horses stomping. And beside the pub in Church Street, the cavern as it is today, there's a gateway there, and Kevin White took cattle from the Ballyhole Road fields there, and in the mornings, and milked them there, and then drove them back up, and in the evening, at 4 o'clock, back down to the camp, maybe 10 or 15 hours, and they were milked in Church Street. And the pub then was called McVeigh's. So and in Thursdays in Uri, the town was full of carts, two-wheel carts with a shaft up in the air, and the horses were taken out, and they were put in Brenton Gallagher's yard, near the market were stalls down there, and there was a blacksmith, Martin's, opposite, and he had stalls in there, and they took the horses out, and the shafts of the carts up in the air all the way up. There was no cars at all. It was a different time.
Actually mentioned there the name Kevin White.
Yes.
Kevin was quite a character, and as you know, he kept a piggery up Monk's Hill, and the piggery was facing the gates of the cemetery. And one time there was a man died down in Grainan, and the funeral was coming up to Monk's Hill, and there was a big priest that time standing at the gate waiting for the funeral. They called him Father McGuinness, and Kevin went down and he asked the priest, he says, would the funeral be coming up from them, or would it be coming up from Uri? And Father McGuinness says, I don't give an F if it's coming by helicopter. And that's a true story.
There was an old fellow in Church Street called Donny Clark, and Donny Clark couldn't read and write, and he couldn't read the clock. We all from John Mitchell Street and all around, we all had a look at the clock which was lit up in High Church. Nobody had clocks. Times were bad, and there was unemployment in Uri was 27%. Between here and Derry, that was the highest unemployment in Western Europe. And when times were bad, the first casualty was always the alarm clock. You could have got 10 bob in the pawn alone on the clock. So if you went to a house next door that had a clock, mother would say, go over and see Mrs. Smith and ask her what time it is, because we didn't always have a clock. And if Mrs. Smith couldn't give you the time, you knew the clock was in the pawn. But Johnny Clark, we would all go home. boys coming home from drinking late on a Saturday night. Johnny Clark always got a call at 7:30 in the morning. One of the neighbours would knock the door to get him up, go to 8 mass. And the boys were coming home at 2:30. The very man you mentioned, Kevin White, and his cronies. Just they knocked Johnny Clark's door at 2:30 in the morning. Get up for mass. Johnny got up past the church, which was lit up, but he couldn't read the clock. He was standing outside the cathedral at 3 o'clock in the morning. When I was young, I thought that was a great joke. I realised it's not a dirty trick. So there you are.
Not right. Here, before we finish up, I know that nowadays you've all these big TV shows and everybody has a TV in their house and that. Do you remember the first TV?
Almost surely.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Patsy.
Whenever I saw television, well, we went to Smith's across from us in John Mitchell Street. So that was away in the very early 50s. And we went over to see the English Cup final because Peter McParlin was playing in it, or Pricker, as we called him.
That was 1957.
Well, I went over to Smith's to see the TV, and it was a black and white film, and there was a lot of snow on it. But I got seeing most of them. I was seeing them nearly killing the bloody goalkeeper. Oh, I remember, and when I was curtain, my wife, we didn't have a TV at home, but my Aunt Kate in John Mitchell Street, when I was living in St. Clair's Avenue then, up in Arthur Ruddy's mother. And I would take Eileen up to John Mitchell Street to my Aunt Kate and get the scones and the buns and the tea. And she also had a TV.
Good.
And we used to watch Top of the Pops and all sorts of.
Aye.
Oh, TV wasn't that popular. Well, it wasn't that widespread because it was radio. And then, of course, the starting to rent them was midday. But the world has changed. The world has changed. If you stand still, you're going backwards. And it's no use talking about, well, it's a good change. I think it's a good change. I mean, I can take my phone out now and phone my friend in Argentina. I think that's progress. Some people think it's not. But even God man the cathedral has adopted office hours. Ricky Devine has the place closed up at 5 o'clock. Doesn't worry me, but the very Catholic they would really. The old people used to go in there at night to say their prayers. They can't do that now. Here I'm laughing here. A rascal.
Well, I was living in Drummond Lane at that time for a while, and when the televisions come on the scene, went down to a woman called Rita McJown, and she was the first one to have one. And her house would be full every night, even a crowd of children looking through the window.
George's Lane was a strange wee street. There was a fair number of people couldn't read and write. A lot of adults couldn't read and write when I was young. And would ask, some of them would, the way they would ask you to read something, Paul would say, would you read that wee bit there from it, son? I left my glasses at home. My mother used that trick as well. She just couldn't read. But my mother was telling me that in those days in the 20s, which after I was born, but early way back when there were silent movies. There's an old lady there, Ellen Kelly, and 2 or 3, and one of them would have been Tommy Markey's mother lived there. The Markey's granny lived there. That's how I got to know the Markeys as I was growing up. But all these old ladies and gents all went to the Frontier Cinema for the first time to see a silent movie. And in those days, they went down the middle aisle, and before they got into their seat, they all genuflected. What are you doing? What are you doing the top of? So that's how innocent people were.
Right.
That's right. That's right.
So,
and my mother-in-law in St. Clair's Avenue, and she would go in those days. There's 3 picture houses near the Savoy, the Frontier, and Casey's, and there would be a first house and a second house. But my mother-in-law, she had 6 sons, the O'Neills, and she would all go to the first house, and she would have to take the milk with her and the bread.
Because they would eat. Yes,
Because you had to make sure she had the milk and bread for the breakfast.
Listen, man, I could sit here and talk to you all day, but I'm sure you just want to go home and get ready for your big night out. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
That was absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
thanks very much, Park. Thank you very much.
I enjoyed the crack.
Sorry to
Oh,
crack.
anytime, boys. Anytime.
Ah.